Hello, YouTube. This is the Sentinel, and I have a off the reaction take that I've been thinking about for many years. And I really have to address it because as time goes by, there's going to be a lot more nostalgic fans of the Nolan films, as there properly should, because suffice to say, believe it or not, yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of these movies. Now, do I believe they're good Batman movies? Not really. The most Batman in that we find the Bale version of the character really is in Batman Begins. That's really where we get the closest Batman to the comic book version. But even that is inaccurate because Ducard was a character created by Sam Hamm, who wrote the screenplay for Batman 89. And in Blind Justice, the character of Ducard is actually a mentor of Batman, but Batman ends their partnership when he is disgusted by Ducard's methods. Sound familiar? So what Nolan did was mix Ducard together with Ra's al Ghul, and just made Ra's al Ghul the main villain for the movie. Okay, fine. But you can't therefore criticize the origin of Batman 89, because what you just did took an extraordinary creative license on the origin of the character. Batman did not just spend 7 years in a ninja monastery and then coming back to Gotham fully prepared to do what he needed to do. Whereas it's heavily implied through scenes in 89 that this Batman had traveled the world. He'd gone to Japan. He had gone to different countries, studied different eras. Really a self-taught man, it's implying. And the fact that he already had his home that monitored up showed a very shrewdness to his Batman that other versions have not shown. Maybe the Ben Affleck, but to be the first movie and to have started that is quite extraordinary and very true to the character. The iconic version of the character. And we're going to get into that term, iconic version of the character, just real quickly. The iconic Batman is the Batman of Batman 1989. It's the Batman of the DCAU. It's that version of the Batman. And I'd ultimately say the version of the DCAU is the iconic version of the Batman. And based on several factors that I can get into, in comparison to the two, I think the more iconic interpretation by both actor and director is Michael Keaton's Batman. Does this take away from Christian Bale? No. Christian Bale had the misfortune of having an actor steal the entire movie. I mean, to the point where if you don't have Heath Ledger in these movies, this version of the character is remembered as the Bryan Singer version of Superman is remembered. All right? But the main point of really why I wanted to go into, a quick video kind of highlighting, contrasting, and really displaying what I like about these interpretations of Batman, because as far as the films go, my two favorite interpretations of Batman done on live screen is Tim Burton and Christopher Nolan. And while I think Christopher Nolan's movies are extremely overrated because he doesn't know how to shoot a fight scene and he lacks some basic just editing skills that make for good sequence choreography look utterly ridiculous. What Nolan does excel in is making his world even as realistic and unbelievable it is to Burton's Gotham. He does a good job of making it look big and magnifying. And I'll give him that. And there are moments in the Dark Knight Trilogy where he is the iconic Batman. Probably the most iconic Batman moment in the trilogy would probably be him getting up after being bitten by the Rottweilers, which is kind of embarrassing, and just moseying along through the pain and then jumping on the car. That's probably the most iconic Batman moment of the Bale interpretation. Now, there are several of the Michael Keaton interpretation, at least for me. The first. What are you? I'm Batman. So I can go into, all of these different things. So what Keaton gets over Bale is two things. And this is going to lead to the point of this video, which is that the Dark Knight Trilogy isn't the Dark Knight Trilogy, or shouldn't be called the Dark Knight Trilogy. What it really should be called is the Bruce Wayne Trilogy. And I mean that in no disrespect, but I do want to correct people under the mistaken assumption that these are Batman movies. The two movies by Tim Burton were movies about Batman. The three movies by Christopher Nolan were about Bruce Wayne. What do I mean by that? When we meet Michael Keaton's Batman, he is so lost and awkward as Bruce Wayne that he really doesn't know how to function in the normal world. And it was a bit of a creative license that Tim and Sam took, because he is supposed to keep up this kind of pretense that the comic does, where he's this playboy and therefore people wouldn't suspect, as much. Yeah, that works. I mean, to be honest, I think the quirky, awkward billionaire does just as good a job. It's not as being not believable. But I'm going to say, and let's talk about the Bruce Wayne trilogy, because it is an exceptional story. It's not a Batman story. It's Batman to the core marketing wise, but at the heart of the story, it's not a story about Batman. It's a story about Bruce Wayne and his ability to get over the trauma of his parents' death. And to do that, Nolan had to completely change the character. Superman is considered a messianic character. He is a savior. Batman was never, ever considered a messianic character. He is the embodiment of order by revenge. And every night he goes out beating up criminals. A little piece of his soul feels better because he's getting back a piece of what he never could when his parents were murdered in front of him. When his parents were murdered in front of him, the thing that Bruce Wayne was looking at was a Joe's chill and desperation. Whereas with Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne looked into the eyes of pure evil, just as he was about to be killed himself. And the moment the Jack Nicholson, said, "See you around, kid," Bruce Wayne was dead, and that was Batman. And so you see, when Michael Keaton in the costume is so much more comfortable, with who he is, he really, that's his real face. This is the difference. This is why these are Batman movies, regardless of the inaccuracies. And I know there are inaccuracies. Regardless of them, this is Bruce Wayne dressed up as Batman. That is Batman. Do you understand the difference? So what Nolan went for is this idea of retribution through fear. But the way Christian Bale plays the character is such a lost, melancholy kind of person that he doesn't really have the focus of the comic book Batman that Michael Keaton has, where he's done years of training and research. What this lost Bruce Wayne version of Batman is, ultimately it needs a mentor. And he finds it in Ducard, who teaches him the elements of fear and all of these things. And this is where the Bruce Wayne aspect fully manifests itself. The moment Bruce Wayne decides not to kill the murderer, he remains Bruce Wayne. Now, I know this version of Batman killed in the movies. Let me make something very clear. Very clear. The iconic Batman does not murder. The iconic Batman does not murder. Okay? The Punisher murders. The iconic Batman kills in self-defense. He has in the comics before, and he's done so in both of these movies. So, I don't want to hear that. Does he have a higher body count? Yes. But does this character have a higher body count because of his ineptitude? You betcha. You betcha. And Jack Nicholson's Joker that this one had to deal with. Oh, he was going for everybody. But getting back to the Bruce Wayne trilogy, because I really feel like Nolan's films really need to be celebrated as Bruce Wayne becomes a Jesus Christ-like figure. He becomes a messianic figure. But what Nolan does with that is, because it belongs to Superman, and Nolan doesn't realize this, because it belongs to Superman, he puts the Superman dynamic onto Bruce Wayne in the way that instead of being a brooding type typical comic book Batman as the costumed identity that Bruce Wayne wants to instill in criminals is just a mask. That is not the real character. The real character does not want to be Batman. He says it as clearly as possible at the end of Batman Begins. He wants to be with Rachel. He doesn't want this Batman, this cross to bear. It's his cross to bear. This is why the Nolan films are not Batman films. Batman is not Jesus Christ. I could make an argument that there is a very Jesus Christ-like element in Bale's Batman. Absolutely. So, now that we know and established that Bruce Wayne wants to give up the cross to bear known as Batman, while still having to deal with the unresolved trauma he has, he likes going out in this costume and beating up people. It's not who he is, but Bruce Wayne enjoys that. In The Dark Knight, however, they've completely screwed it up. Now, nobody points this out because of this guy, but the fact of the matter is they really screwed the pooch. They should have never have had Rachel Dawes recast, first of all. And if she had to be recast, why did they write that she be a love interest with a character who clearly was going to become the villain of the movie? This is what drives me nuts with the Nolanites, is they can't accept that this, at its core, is not Batman. It's really, it has, and it's so funny with me saying that, because in reality, the majority of it isn't Batman. However, in certain situations, particular situations, it's so Batman that the movies themselves really just kind of get labeled as Batman movies. So that is something to keep in mind. I do have respect for these movies, but I just think I think it's has a lot to do with how the media portrayed, the death of Heath Ledger, and also the kind of the hype of Joker and Batman returning to the screen after 20 years. So, in reality, The Dark Knight is about Batman, Bruce Wayne, using the Batman persona that's his cross to bear as he's saving Gotham, because he's a messianic figure. Gotham isn't beyond saving, he says. This is a messianic figure. In the comic books, Gotham, like in Batman 89, is its own character. You could even say that Gotham created Batman itself. But getting back to this, whereas you had a much more comic book-like influence in Batman Begins, that was completely abandoned for The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. And that's sad, because Nolan completely removed the comic book aesthetic out of it. So let's get back to The Dark Knight. So The Dark Knight is a Bruce Wayne movie in that it's the mantle of Batman that gets Rachel Dawes killed. And he blames himself. So there's more guilt, blaming, it's my fault, and there's more crying. And it's understandable. But even Alfred has to point out that he needs to be Batman right now, not Bruce Wayne. So you have Alfred giving him the advice, and Batman just brazenly ignores it. But now going to The Dark Knight Rises. So Bane is essentially his crucifixion. It's breaking the order that Batman is trying to restore. Bane is a hurricane. And he's portrayed as a revolutionary. And so this is, right after this, the home lending crisis and everything like that. Whereas Batman and The Dark Knight represented sort of like a conservative Bush America restoring order over the chaos of Al-Qaeda. In The Dark Knight Rises, it's really a reaction to the bloated greed of Gotham that eventually Bane took advantage of. Like any great communist dictator, Bane came to power using fear, manipulation, but he also appealed to Gotham's characters in a way that, brought them on their side. Like any revolution, people most disaffected by wealth inequality are usually the ones who are going to sign up for a revolution to steal, from the rich, more likely than not, I would imagine. So here we go. We have we start off with a very arrogant Bruce Wayne. Again, a very arrogant Bruce Wayne. There is no freaking possible way anything could happen to this character that would make him stop dressing up as the Bat and fighting crime for 8 years. Yet Bruce Wayne chooses to hang up the cowl and not do a damn thing in 8 years and just wallow in self-loathing. That really pissed me off as a Batman fan. That pissed me off to see that. I did not think that would happen. It wasn't a subversion of my expectations in terms of the movie. This was this was so out of line for the character. However, for Bruce Wayne, it completely makes sense. So if you look at the three movies as the story of Bruce Wayne taking on the Batman mantle as his cross to bear, fighting the traditional villains he has to fight, but in terms of modernized representations of themselves, realistically portrayed of their time, which is also quite smart. And so with Bane, he breaks the bat, but the bat descends into hell, similar to Jesus, how he descends into hell. Without going into detail, Bruce is able to figure out a way out of hell, gets out of hell, returns to Gotham. He is, in a way, resurrected. Batman is resurrected. And now he has the strength to destroy Bane. However, once again, Nolan makes Batman look like an idiot because he's, put Bruce Wayne in a Batman costume, and Bruce Wayne doesn't realize that Talia is the daughter of Ra's al Ghul, and he gets stabbed after just, triumphantly overcoming, Bane in a fight. So, again, this is very disappointing. It's really nice to have, kind of like the, almost like comedic relief driving the bat pod, and just shooting Bane. And it's like, when Catwoman did that, it was like the best moment, of that character in the entire movie. Because, honestly, that was a really kind of just lame version of Catwoman. Nothing's touching Michelle Pfeiffer, in my opinion. Nothing at all. Maybe the animated series one, the initial one with the blonde Selena Kyle, who is an animal activist, which is a really good modern take on the Catwoman character also. But getting back to the Catwoman, so she comes in and kills Bane. Bruce Wayne obviously reveals his identity to Commissioner Gordon, who doesn't put two and two together until he says Bruce Wayne, and he doesn't even really have any kind of heart to it. So Batman takes the bomb, and it looks like he dies. Okay, Bruce Wayne in the Batsuit takes the bomb and kills himself. What is actually happening in that scene is the killing of Batman. It's the killing of the cross. It's Batman's ascension into heaven. It's Batman's ascension into heaven. The nuclear explosion completely destroys the Batsuit. It completely destroys Bruce Wayne's cross to bear. Bruce Wayne has now made peace with the trauma that created Batman. He's found, and this is kind of stupid how Nolan set it up, but he's found someone he can be with. He's found a sense of peace after all this fighting. Even though Gotham could easily fall into chaos once again, he doesn't care. He takes his little trip to Monte Carlo or wherever with Catwoman, wearing his mother's pearls after being betrayed by her, which makes him look stupid, but it's what Bruce Wayne would do. That's Bruce Wayne following his heart. What we see in the Dark Knight Trilogy is a very loving, unique version of Bruce Wayne that is antithetical to the very core of the character. The very core of the character is, I am Batman, and from this moment, I will walk through hell for the rest of my life, making sure what happened to me never happens to anybody else. That is the core of the character. He is this is his real face. This is Batman. That is Batman. Okay? These two have similar body counts, so excuse me. But in terms of, you know, just lay off of it. Every Batman is killed. The only Batman who didn't kill was the Batman, and that Batman movie sucked. So I want people to appreciate the Nolan movies, but I want them to appreciate them with an asterisk, and that they're not Batman movies. It's not the Dark Knight Trilogy. It's the Bruce Wayne Trilogy. It's using the Batman character for the Bruce Wayne character completely uniquely by Nolan to have a 3-movie arc where he confronts his fear in the first movie. He finds a way to put order on chaos, and as represented by the Joker, by taking on the sins of the death of Harvey Dent onto the Batman character, and he tells Gordon to do that. So basically, the cross is truly the crucifix, and now that the police are told that Batman is in fact the one who killed Harvey Dent, even though that's revealed to be bullshit in the next movie and doesn't really, thus making this sacrifice that Bruce Wayne is making, you know, who, by the way, he can make because nobody knows, and he doesn't need to be Batman. I mean, you can tell he doesn't mind wallowing in his own misery in The Dark Knight Rises. That's what was really shocking to me, is just how he let himself go. It doesn't make sense. And it doesn't make sense because you never got the sense that Rachel really loved Bruce. She didn't. Remember? Remember the note that, what's his face? Alfred burned? You understand now? This is the Bruce Wayne trilogy. The Nolan movies are an interesting Elseworlds tale of Bruce Wayne using the Batman costume and character as his cross to bear against crime, who through the crucifixion of, the nuclear bomb creates a martyr that Gotham now remembers and reveres. And it actually stops, or at least it's implied in the movie, that crime is no longer, quote unquote, a laughing matter. So when we see him meet up with Alfred at that cafe, you're not seeing Batman any longer. You're seeing the redeemed Bruce Wayne living the kind of life, or about to start living the kind of life that Alfred always wanted him to live. So in that sense, the Bruce Wayne trilogy is a great singular story about this character known as Bruce Wayne, who takes on this persona known as Batman as his cross to bear, crucified, and is resurrected. These movies are about the salvation of Bruce Wayne. They're not Batman movies. This guy was in Batman movies. And The Flash is not a Batman movie, okay? It's just, can we assume we can't forget about it? I would rather watch Batman Forever in a 24-hour sequence than watch The Flash again, by the way. All right, I hope I didn't come off as, like anti-Nolanian. I do think he's completely overhyped. But I'm clearly a fan of both movies. I mean, come on. That's the 1990, the Dark Knight collection, OG Batmobile. Do you know how much that goes on eBay for? Come on, man. I've had this for years. You got your Mafex Joker, you got your SH Figure Arts Batman, and of course you got the SH Figure Arts Batman 89. So, this is the Sentinel kind of wrapping up here. The Bruce Wayne trilogy is one of the better trilogies. I would say, if we consider the Bruce Wayne trilogy a trilogy, and we rank them against other trilogies, it beats the Matrix trilogy, it beats the Captain America trilogy, it doesn't beat the Star Wars trilogy, it doesn't beat the, it Does it beat? It beats the Godfather trilogy. Um, so it I would say it's on par. It's even though the Raimi movies are comic book accurate, as far as a trilogy, both trilogies, comparing both trilogies, they're very similar in terms of success. The first one comes out, kind of surprises people at the box office. The second one comes out, and it's a huge improvement. And then the third one comes out, and it's a fart. It's a flat. It's a fart. It's a wet fart, basically. With some redeeming elements. Like the score by Hans Zimmer in all three films, I felt are very unique, and I like them as film music. But they're not. It's not a Batman theme. This guy has a Batman theme, and the wonderful Shirley Walker, along with the inspiration from Danny Elfman, helped develop the Batman the Animated Series theme song, which has its own wonderful motif that's used in Batman Mask of the Phantasm, which, in my opinion, is a top 3 Batman movie. So, which are better films? I think that's a subjective matter. If I were to say, okay, what films are more likely to win Oscars, I would say The Dark Knight, or no, I would say the Bruce Wayne films are. Even though Batman 89's Gotham won the Oscar for Best Production Design, and even though obviously Heath collected the Best Actor posthumously. So these are both, good enough movies that when Batman 89 was released, it was just as cutting edge as this all was when it was released in 2008. Okay, so that's wrapping it up. The Bruce Wayne trilogy is a great trilogy that should be revered as a Bruce Wayne trilogy, not a Batman trilogy. I realize it's always going to be called a Batman trilogy, even though it shouldn't. Even though it really shouldn't. Because the movies start out Batman Begins, and then you go The Dark Knight, The Dark Knight Rises, but you call the entire thing the Dark Knight Trilogy. Well, okay, I can understand how that can make sense, but it's not accurate. It's really Batman Begins, Batman, The Dark Knight, and Batman, The Dark Knight Rises. That's how it should have been represented. But actually, the fact that the first movie is called Batman and the other two are called The Dark Knight really say a lot. It says to me that Batman Begins is the closest Batman movie that we got in that trilogy. So Batman Begins is a close Batman movie. It's not quite a Batman movie, but let me just put it that the skull and bones are there to tell you whether it's a male or a female. And yeah, this is a Batman movie mostly. It takes some extraordinary creative liberties, but it's still pretty iconic. Okay. All right, so the Bruce Wayne trilogy is an excellent trilogy. It is a shame that we never got a third movie, but the way, you know what? I think it would have made for a trilogy because Bruce Wayne was Tim Burton was incorporating events from the previous movie into this current movie and kind of contrasting them. Vicky Vale was very kind of timid and always screaming, damsel in distress, and then he meets Catwoman, and he is, some of us are just attracted to the bad girls. We can't help it. It's like a moth to a flame. And Michelle Pfeiffer should have won an Oscar for that performance, by the way. All right, this is the Sentinel signing off. I hope you enjoyed this little vlog. Yeah, check out my collection. Yeah. All right. Good night.